Hi Lee, how you doing? Welcome to Smash Your Own Ceiling.
Thanks, Barbara. It's lovely to be here. Do you know what? I was listening to your podcast the other day, and you've got the friendliest opening of any podcast I've ever noticed. You're just like, "Hello, I'm Barbara. How's it going? How's it going?" Usually, it's like, "Welcome to the blah 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 podcast," and yours is just like, "Hey up, how are you doing?"
Exactly. This is me, right? What you see is what you get. So
I love it.
I'm glad that you liked that, and I'm really glad that you're here because I think you're quite like-minded, and we're just gonna have a really good chat.
Let's give it a bash. Who knows? I don't know where it's going to go, but I kind of like that.
I
So,
like that too. So, before we get started, then let's listen about you, hear about you, because you can introduce yourself as always, as with everybody, much better than I can. So, tell us about what you do. Well, who used to say that? Cilla Black. What do you do, and where do you come from?
what do you do, and where do you come from? Well, Scylla, I my name is Lee Jackson. I live in Leeds, so I guess I'm Lee from Leeds. I am the 2008 runner-up in the Keith Chegwin lookalike competition. And no, that was my little joke. I've spent my life communicating with people. That's what I do. I'm a people person, and I'm a professional speaker, an expert on motivation, resilience, relationships, and related matters. So my job is quite interesting. So for the last 27 years, I've been speaking. 14 of that was kind of as a youth worker. I worked a lot in schools. Now I still work in schools a little bit, but actually I work mainly in businesses and organizations. And my job is very kind of, it's sort of in two halves really. There's the get good at life, which we'll talk about, which is motivational stuff. So I'm traditionally motivational speaker at a big conference and a staff away day or something like that. And the other half of my job is because when you become a professional speaker, people started asking you, how do I do that? How can I be a better speaker? So actually, my other half of my job is get good at presenting. And I teach people to be more confident and I teach them to present better. But here's the weird bit about that is that actually presentation skills is all about personal confidence. And actually the subjects are very, very closely related, which I quite enjoy. Yeah. So I say often I'm either speaking on a stage or helping other people to speak on a stage, whatever a stage might be, even if it's the front of a room. So that's me, really.
Amazing. I love all of that. And you mentioned it already. You mentioned get good at life, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And I am looking at your book right now, Get Good at Life. Look at this snazzy book. Because you
Okay.
kindly sent it through to me. So I've been having a good read of this. But we're going to dive into this book and your story. But I'm curious, as with anybody,
Yeah.
what why this book? And because I know that everybody's got a book in them, as they say,
Yeah.
why this book? And
Mm.
yeah, let's start there. Like,
It's a really great question. The book Get Good at Life, actually, the story comes from another podcast that I did, um, which is which another podcast I did with Amy Rawlinson, who is a professional speaker too, and she interviewed me about various stuff and the motivational side of what I did before that book was done. And I was writing a book called Get Good at Work, because I do lots of that stuff. Because a lot of stuff is like, how do you, get on with the job? How do you get on with other people? How do you keep motivated when you hate your job? Lots of those questions that I get. And I was talking to her about that, and she's very cheeky, and she was kind of coaching me in the podcast. And by the end of the podcast, I thought, do you know what, Amy? I'm gonna write Get Good at Life, not Get Good at Work, because I
mm,
actually wanted it to be broader than just how do I get through the working week.
yeah,
Because I realized that I love the connection with people, and I love to understand why people do what they do. So my fascination has always been with people, even since I was a little kid. People talk
mm,
about being a people watcher. I mean, that is classically me. I will sit and watch people and think, why are they doing that? And
mm.
you know, oh, that family's hugging, that family isn't. What's going on there? What I'm interested. I guess I'm just a bit nosy, I suppose. And that started all of that stuff off, Barbara. Just how do we understand ourselves? How do we get the best out of this often confusing, strange world that we live in?
Yeah. Oh, and I can completely relate. I'm a people person through and through. If you cut me in half like a stick of
Yeah.
rocket, I'd have people running through the middle. And love nothing more than sitting in a cafe outside and just
Mm.
people watching and just watching the world go by. And yeah, I was that kid too. So kindred
Oh.
spirits. This is good. So what did you? And again, I'm curious. What did you want to be then when you were growing up?
Obviously, an astronaut.
Oh yeah, of course.
That's the
Yeah,
standard
of
sort
course.
of
Yeah.
stereotypical male kind of thing from the 1970s. Definitely an astronaut. Everyone was going to be an astronaut or Han Solo. Those were the only two options available to me in the northeast of England. I'm originally from the northeast. My accent is a little bit mixed. You might mix that, but I've lived in Leeds most of my life, most of my adult life.
Yeah. And Han Solo, I think that's the perfect. I don't know why you didn't do it, to be honest.
I know, like Luke Skywalker was an option because I was more fair-haired, I think. But actually, Han Solo's the one we all wanted to be, I
Yeah, Han
think.
Solo's the one that everybody wanted to hang around with, to be honest.
I think he applies. He appeals to
He does.
both sides of the equation, as it
Yeah,
were.
he's got it all, hasn't he? So,
Yeah.
right, so I'm flicking through this book, and what I'm gonna do is play a game with you, Lee, that's just popped into my head, and I'm gonna flick through the book because there's so many gems in here, so many gems.
Right.
Right, we'll put all the links in the show notes, so
Let's
you
do
want to
it.
go grab a copy. I'm going to flick through the book and you're going to say stop and then we're going to chat about what's on the page because get good at life is a big topic, right? Are you
Oh,
ready?
this is a great test because if I'd used AI to write that book, I wouldn't be able to
Well,
do
this is
right,
true.
right? Because
This is true.
these are all my own words. Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Right, you ready? On your marks, get set, go.
Stop.
Right, I've stopped in the middle. It says, it says Batman and Robin, but it's the chapter is how to get motivated.
So the Batman and Robin story.
Oh yeah,
Um,
let's talk about that.
I'm uh, I'm not a natural runner. I think it's fair to say. If you've met me, I'm not a long distance runner. Long distance runners are thin, small people who I'm not. I'm a chunky gentleman. I do play basketball actually. I'm pretty good at basketball and I play that a lot. But I did do the Great North Run twice. That was a little goal of mine to sort of do it because I love the Northeast and I just thought I can do this. So I did. And in front of me, I was on my own in the Great North Run. The first one was on my own, and I was there, sort of feeling a bit nervous. We're there with 20,000 people or whatever. I think it starts on a motorway, if I remember rightly. They close the motorway down and you start. And in front of me was Batman and Robin, dressed in the old school kind of Del Boy kind of way of the old school Batman, old school Robin. I could hear these guys chatting to each other because I'm a people person and I'm a bit nosy.
Mhm.
And they were Geordie lads and they'd obviously had a skinful the night before. They had had a full English breakfast,
Wow.
and they were about to do the Great North Run. And the gun goes off, and nothing happens for about 5 minutes because everyone just moves really
Yeah.
slowly. And you eventually start to, oh, I'm walking, oh, I'm running. As soon as we were able to run, Batman and Robin shot off into the distance. You could almost hear the sea, da, 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 da. You could almost hear the theme tune. They were running off into the distance. I thought, this is not going to end well. And my goal was just to run it all as slowly as possible, but just to run it all. My goal was never a time. It was just don't walk. So it's pretty good. So I went for it. A mile and a half later, there was Batman and Robin at the side of the road. Let's just say saying hello to the pavement and
Yeah.
they were doing what you'd expect when you'd had a skinful and a full English before you start running. And they were not very well at all, and they'd lost it about a mile and a half down the road. It was obviously 13 miles. And it was just a great example for me of you can have all the gear, you can have obviously no idea, all the gear, no idea, but actually passion and enthusiasm, which is really important, only takes you so far.
Yes. I
And
love that story.
you
Go on.
know, you might be really passionate about your job or about something, but it only takes you so far. You need to know what takes you the rest of the way.
Do you know what? I love that story for so many reasons. One, because Great North Run is up there on my bucket list. I'm
Oh,
doing like the 10K again this weekend coming actually.
oh,
Uh,
brilliant.
it might be in the past now as this podcast goes
Yeah.
out. But the other thing that I love about it is you're right, motivation and passion only gets you so far. And the saying that that comes into mind is, "What got you here isn't always going to get you there." You do need to know
Oh,
how to keep yourself going.
that is so true.
Yeah. So
And
what do we do about that then?
well, I think it's the key to all of this, of course, is understanding ourselves. So if you don't understand what makes you tick, I mean, you do a lot of coaching, Barbara. I do a little bit of coaching, but probably not as much as you, I don't think. And every one of your clients that come to you are all different. They all might come with a similar problem.
Mm,
I'm feeling demotivated. I want to go for a promotion or whatever it happens to be. Uh, you know, um, or they might come with a personal issue that they need to solve. But actually, they're all very different. And I've always found that just really, really interesting. That actually, what works for you, even though we're quite similar, I guess we've just noticed what works for you isn't going to work for me.
mm,
We're wired up differently. So, first of all, I think it's always self awareness. Are you aware of the stuff that's going on? Some people are blissfully unaware of their lives and their problems, I think. And they just, some people are deliberately unaware. I talk about the fingers and the ears. Some people like live their lives like this, la 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 la. And that's, I think, a lot of the problems that we have, going a little bit darker for a moment, a lot of the problems I think we have with male suicide, which is a big problem because a lot of blokes don't deal with what's going on and they think they can get through it. But actually, what they needed to do is months and months earlier, they needed to get some medical help. They needed to talk to some friends. They needed to share where they're at. I mean, we've gone pretty dark pretty quick, but I think, did you see what I mean? It's like that, sometimes, sometimes we just need the help beforehand. And I think most of that is self-awareness, I think.
yeah. And that self-awareness is absolutely key. It was one of my biggest learnings way back when I first started doing this type of work. And we're talking a long time. I think you said 27 years. It's 27 years for me as well.
All
So
right.
which is cool.
We're
Um,
twins, Barbara. We're twins.
we are twins, yeah. Although I'm still a black and you're Keith Chegwin. So yeah. We're both like 80s, though. That's the problem. We're showing our age now. We need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, self-awareness is absolutely key because you can't do anything without that. It's the ability to challenge your own thoughts, to be aware of your own actions and the consequences of those actions, whether it's for yourself or others. And um, it, unless you do dial up that self-awareness, you can't actually do any change. You can't make any change that's long lasting because that's what it is, literally where it all starts.
Yeah. And the downside of self-awareness is that actually we don't give ourselves a break.
Mm,
It's what I say in the book. There's a whole chapter, there's a whole section on I use the phrase rest is a weapon. Rest is a weapon for the daily fight that we're in. So the problem with being really self-aware is you can be acutely self-aware and you can micromanage and overthink every action and thought that you have. And that's a whole bag of coaching right there because we go the other way. So we can go from fingers in the ears to completely irrelevant to completely, I'm not getting involved. Oh, no, 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 no. And then we become what psychologists call hypervigilant about everything in the world. And that brings us stress. So I think where in the middle, there's some kind of happy medium of being aware of who you are, but also being kind to yourself and having people around you that can support and encourage you to make those things palatable and we're just this Saturday about to celebrate our 30th wedding
oh,
anniversary.
congratulations.
Yeah, it's a long 30 years, it's a
Yeah,
long
it is
time.
a long time.
My wife is a very patient woman. But a lot of it is down to that. How have we stayed together for so long? Because we like each other, because we use this. I have a phrase like we prefer each other. So, I push her forward, she pushes me forward. You think that wouldn't work, but actually it does.
Mm,
Because, a marriage shouldn't be a dominant person. It's about encouraging and moving each other forward. So there's a little bit of that. So it's like, who have you got in your life that can actually be that person that can encourage you? I call them often the person of peace. In any audience, if you've ever done any public speaking at all, in every audience, there'll be 20% of people that don't like you particularly. 20% of people who really love you and they think you're amazing because they're big Keith Chegwin fans. And 60% of people are just like, yeah, it's all right.
mm,
Problem is, we could concentrate on those that look a bit grumpy, that those that look a bit miserable, those we haven't reached, without understanding that actually there's loads of people there that are really enjoying the talk and
Yeah.
the session. So yeah, we can definitely catastrophize on a personal level quite easily, can't we? Of
And there's so much there that I kind of want to unpick, if that's all right, because
course, yeah.
you're absolutely right. We have this negative bias, don't we? That's just hardwired into our brain. And it reminds me of a story that I've told many times, but it's um, my biggest lesson when it came to my own negative bias was my eldest daughter. She's 28 now, but when she was just starting school, she was probably about 5 or 6. They had to do a sponsored spell, and they had to do 100 spellings, right? And so she went off practicing, and that's a big deal for what a 6-year-old. She went off that day super excited, and they had to do it in exam conditions again, which is really stressful for it. I know. Anyway, I went to pick her up at the end of the day, and she ran into my arms, and I said, "How did you do?" And she said, "I got 99 right." And guess what Mum of the Year said? "Which one did you get wrong?" Right? I
Mm.
know, right? And I've kind of forgiven myself a little bit over the years. At the time, it was I realized what I'd done.
Yeah.
But it was a massive, massive like slap across the face for me of this is
Mm.
my negative bias coming out.
Yeah.
And you're so right. Having that it's so easy to look at the audience if we're talking about speaking or think about anything. We can focus on feedback, can't we? And think, oh, we've got 10 bits of good feedback, and we'll always look at the one piece of negative, or we'll think, oh, we've got 100 people in the audience, but we'll also always focus on the 20 odd people that don't like us. It's something to really watch out for, isn't it?
It is. I've been involved. I did a bit of consulting for a large organization and put on an event for them. So I worked as a speaker and I was hosting the event and stuff, but I was also involved in the organization. And so therefore we've got the dreaded feedback after the event, right? And it's funny because there are different sort of, I'm a kind of a consultant that's working with them. They're a large organization. Their culture and values is different, slightly different to mine. And they are going over all of the responses on the day, and I'm like, no, 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 seriously, like look at everything, and then get rid of the top 10%, the people who love you. Get rid of the bottom 10%, the people who didn't like the start. They wanted Nescafe instead of Kenko coffee, right? And let's look at the stuff in the middle. This is what we need to work on. But our obsession is, oh, the coffee wasn't good enough.
Yes.
And you're like, yeah, but it was a motivational day. It was about people doing career progression. People have probably changed the direction of their life on that day. And we often, as organizers and we end up talking about the coffee or the queue at the beginning of the day to get registered.
Mm.
And that stuff is helpful and is important. But do you know what? We need to focus on what's the main thing. And I think a lot of that is values, isn't it, Barbara? Like,
Oh,
the self-awareness is, do we understand our values? Do we understand kind of, and a good friend of mine, and you've met her a few times as well, Michelle Mills Porter,
mhm.
does a great values thing called Essence, and she helps people to understand their values, and it's a wonderful thing because once you understand your values, it's really great.
Oh,
She,
it's everything, because it's that feeling, isn't it? The keeping you, it's your North Star, I think, is what I'm
yeah,
trying to say. And that feeling of that niggling feeling in the gut, the pit of your stomach, when you know that you're doing something that's against your values. Maybe if you're in an organization, and we all know when we're doing it, when we're stepping over that line. It keeps us on the straight and narrow, but it's so important to just be aware of it. Um,
yeah.
and I want to just go back to something else you said before I forget, because I'm trying to keep everything in my head. You
So
said about rest being a weapon.
yeah,
And I'm so passionate about this because it's true. We're all conditioned to work non-stop.
mm,
And again, we do a good job. Yeah. Most of the time when you look at yourself, you're doing a great job. And it's about giving yourself that little bit of grace, isn't it? And
mm,
allowing yourself that time to go, actually, I'm gonna just catch my there's a Ken Blanchard quote that I really like, that's popped into my head. And he used to say, I like catch people doing things right. And I like to twist it a little bit and say, catch yourself doing things right. Because so
yeah,
often that we can just fall down that pit of just thinking, no, we have to keep going, and we have to
mm.
try harder, and we have to work harder.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. Was Ken Blanchard, he wrote One Minute Manager, didn't
He
he?
did, yeah, with another chap, Spencer somebody, I can't the name.
Yeah, I remember reading that book. It was when I was a manager at the time in a charity, it really changed my life, that little book. You can read it in about 25 minutes. It's
I know.
wonderful.
I love books like that, don't
Yeah.
you?
Oh, yeah. Too many big books.
Yeah.
Um, which is why I've made mine into chapters and I'm going to put them onto my podcasts and stuff just so people can digest them. But yeah, there's, oh gosh, the rest is a weapon thing is really interesting. People often, I call myself a motivational speaker. I hate the title, not interested in the title. It's not nuanced enough for me. But that's what people Google, so that's what I have to call myself. It's a weird little job that I have. But really, what people often want me to do is to come in and rev up the troops, right? Lee, we need you to come in. They're all feeling a bit down. They all need to, and then talking to them, and sometimes I think they don't need revving up. They need a day off.
Yes.
And you're thinking, oh, hang on a sec, this isn't because two of the most unfashionable things to talk about in the world right now, in my humble opinion, are rest and moderation.
Mm.
Social media is built on the idea of extremes. TV is built on the idea a good TV program is extremes, right? You know, in lockdown, Tiger King was the greatest TV program in the world, right? That was a really extreme story about a guy who had loads of tigers and was doing crazy illegal things, right? Most people in life aren't doing that. Most of us are just bumbling along trying to get through the day and stuff like that. But those words, I think people, they often don't want me to talk about them. They don't, they'd rather, what's the secret, Lee? I need to know the secret. What's the secret to motivation? There must be a secret. And how many books are around that subject? You know, the one thing you need to know, the secret to this, the secret to that. And really, it's sometimes is about this stuff that you as a coach unpack, the self-awareness, understanding your values, balancing your life and your time, and learning to rest. And I'm quite an activist kind of person, but I'm learning to have a day off.
Mm.
I'm learning to clock off and put my phone in another room. And I love the idea of after eight, the beautiful chocolate that you get at Christmas, although it's available all year round, weirdly. Uh,
Oh, I don't know. We only ever get them at Christmas, but then that's the same with like chocolate orange as well. So I don't know.
it's a funny
We're gonna
one.
look into that.
We
I'll
can
let
look
you
into
know.
that one. But after eight, that's what after eight, switch your phone off. After eight, leave your phone in a different room because you need a couple of hours or a few more hours, 2 or 3 hours for your brain to do something else. And whether that's TV or reading or talking to your family or playing with your dog or whatever it happens to be, we need a bit of that. And I think the problem with if we're permanently connected, we are always comparing ourselves to other people. And comparison is the thief of joy. It's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
And so we are actually really hurting ourselves. We're making life hard for ourselves by always being online, always and not learning to disconnect. So just before I met, so about an hour ago today, I stopped and I had lots of things to do before this podcast. I wanted to read up a couple of things. I got lots of work piling up, but I just took 10 minutes out and I just stopped and I sat on my sofa in my office and I listened to like a guided thing that makes you think about your day and stuff like that. And I just stopped. And everything in me didn't want to do it, but I'm really glad that I did.
It works, doesn't it?
Mm,
And everything again, I agree with everything you said, because one of the things that I talk about a lot is what I help people about with a lot is getting stuck in the weeds. And it's that feeling
yeah,
of um I'm working all the time, I've got no work-life balance,
yeah,
I haven't seen the kids for ages or put them to bed
yeah,
or done anything. I'm suffering, my happiness is suffering. And I don't talk about productivity. I don't talk about how you can get more done. And the
yeah,
very first thing that usually I talk about is a barbarism. I coined the phrase a pocket of air. So it's about finding your pocket of
yes,
air every single day.
yeah,
And as a non-negotiable, it's a must. And the change that happens just from doing this one thing is incredible. And it can be anything. It can be going for a walk. It can be sitting doing a guided meditation like what you did the other day. It could be sitting on your sofa. It could be doing your yoga or going for a run. My only rules are it can't be TV and it can't involve other people. It's got to be just for you, something that actually fills up your soul. And we all know when that's happening because we can feel it. And when you actually do that and create your pocket of air, we can always have excuses. Oh, we haven't got time.
Yeah.
We've got to do this. We've got to do that. I've got loads of work done. I'm not interested. Do your pocket of air and everything else, that ripple effect, it all falls into place.
Mm.
And I'm really pleased that you do that as a anyway, you know, sitting on the sofa, having your guided, I don't know, was it a guided meditation thing that you listened to?
Yeah, it was a thing called Lectio 365.
Right.
Because I have a faith, because I'm a Christian. It was actually like it's like a Bible reading and a bit of a prayer, but it's call it a meditation, I suppose, if you want. It's a meditation with a focus not on you. That's
Yes.
how I describe it. So it has that kind of and it's quite relaxed when you listen to it. It's very sort of like, let's just stop for a moment. Let's just reflect. Notice your breathing. Notice that. And then you get different voices. I love it. It's different voices, different accents, different voices reading little bits and stuff like that. So it is, yeah, it's encouraging and challenging, and it just
Mm.
takes that time out. So people do different things. Obviously,
Yeah.
because I have a faith, it's slightly different. I'm not into Eastern mysticism or yoga or anything like that. That's not my style. But whatever.
It's
I get,
exactly whatever. It's about you finding your thing. And for
yeah,
me, I walk the dog every single day, rain or shine. And that's what I did before we jumped on this podcast. Because I know that whilst I'm
rain
doing,
or shine. I couldn't do that, Barbara. I don't think rain
oh,
or
you see, I'm
shine.
hardcore, you see. In all weathers, you'll find me trudging along with the dog with my muddy boots on. But I don't have I don't listen to podcasts. I don't have my headphones on. I
Okay.
don't take phone calls. It's just me and the birds and nature and
Mm.
just regrouping. That's what it's all about because
So,
you've
yeah,
got you can't do anything for anybody else if you're empty. You know,
yeah.
it's just not possible. So I love your phrase with that rest is a weapon. I
Mm.
think that's your Leeism. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose it is, and I do a little. Oh, sorry, I just knocked my camera there. Went a bit wobbly. Yeah, so I talk about Kit Kats, and I talk about the different size of Kit Kats. So I talk about a micro break, a mini break, a munch break, a day off, and a holiday, and they're all based on the size of Kit Kats that you can get.
Hmm.
So like a micro break is for me, I guess, similar to what you're saying. So a micro break is you're queuing at the post office. Do you do your emails, or do you just take a moment to breathe and stop?
Hmm.
That's what I call a micro break. A mini break is, an actual tea break. I worked for an organization a few years ago, and the sort of bell rang at 11 o'clock, and we had 11s.
Oh, I like that.
And a trolley came. There was about, I think, there's about 30 people worked in this office,
Mhm.
and a trolley came round, and there was cakes and fruit and drinks, and everyone stopped for it. It was the most English thing I've ever seen. It was beautiful.
I love that. I had a similar experience. I used to work for a company we're talking a long time ago. And about 10:30, everybody got up. We all went to the canteen together and we all had breakfast. And obviously you had whatever you
Ah,
wanted, but we all sat in the canteen and talked, had
yeah,
breakfast, and we didn't seem to worry about the phones ringing or anything. It was the time when we all just sort of
yeah, it's
got together.
great.
It's lovely. I wonder if that happens at the company that you used to be
Yeah,
at now. Does
maybe
it
it was.
still
Yeah,
happen?
I think that does. Yeah, that
Oh,
they do it. It's much more of, I suppose, more traditional values, but
yeah.
it's. I think it's interesting because if you look at, I'm not a productivity expert, but I'm interested in it and I've researched it a little bit. But I wouldn't call myself a productivity expert. But what I'm interested in is, you'll know as a coach, that if you look at a graph of productivity, it falls off really quickly and it doesn't come back up because we only have a limited span.
Yeah.
So what annoys me is you have all these companies that are saying, we don't do tea breaks, we don't do lunch breaks,
Oh,
you've got to eat your lunch at your desk, and there's all this pressure. But what they don't understand is there's no more work being done.
yes.
If you stop work at the traditional hours, say 5 o'clock, and then you say, oh no, I'm working till 7:30. Sometimes that period can be really productive, but the research shows that if you just work longer hours, you get less and less productive over the hours. So you're better off having short focus time moving on. In fact, I read one piece of research which was lovely, and you can share this with the leaders that you work with, Barbara. Is someone did some research and they worked out that a senior manager or a leader in a business would get everything that they need to get done in a week if
Yeah.
they had two-hour uninterrupted slots in the week. Just to do that report, to do that finance thing, just two-hour slots. People say, no way. But you think about it, when it's so unfashionable now to close the door in a
Mm.
leader or manager's office, I'm like, no, I'm all for closing the door.
Me
Sometimes you
too.
just
I advocate close that door.
close the door.
Yeah, close the door, get some focus time. It Parkinson's law springs to mind, which I'm sure you know about, which is the task expands to fit the time available. And we've all done it, right? So we've all, we probably did it at school. That's probably
Yeah.
most obvious, where you know that you've got a report to write and we leave it to the last day. And it's probably just as good as, if you had a week to do it. So yes, shut the door. Definitely shut the door.
I used to
Um,
work in an open plan office. When I was at charity, we had a tiny little office,
Mm.
and there were like five of us crammed in this little office. And I used to wear a hat. So they used to wind me up about it, but I had a hat on, and the hat meant I'm doing some work, please don't disturb me. Because they would always tap me on the shoulder, go, Lee, can I just ask you about my expenses? Lee, can I just ask you about this? I was like, no, and it was a silly hat. It might have had like hands clapping on it or something. It was a stupid hat that I would wear that they would think I can't talk to him.
Exactly. And it's just a sign saying you need to leave me alone now. Because even though you're the leader, you still need time to think.
Yeah.
You absolutely need time, that headspace. And so many people that I speak to are craving headspace.
Yeah.
Just get, give yourself that opportunity to shut the door, get the thing done, and then open it again and be a different person when you open it because you've done the thing that you needed to do.
I was reflecting the other day on about smoking in the office.
Mm.
Because we've all grown up with officers that smoke, so you smoked, and then there was a smoking room, and then it was banned, and they had to go outside, and it was a complete ban. So I've seen smoking change because I'm old enough to see that change, and now I just think we should bring back smoke breaks
Mm.
because I thought the people who smoked in my office they got loads of breaks during the day, and if you didn't smoke, you got like one break in the morning, and then your lunch, and you were done.
I
I was
know,
thinking,
it's
oh,
true.
smoke breaks actually quite a useful thing.
It really is a useful. We just need to change the words now. Go and just force people, go and have a break.
That's
It,
right.
it is, and if you really look at your personal energy levels, and I do this work as well, where you look at when you're most productive. So
Yeah.
I know that at 3 o'clock every day I have a lull. It's kind of like a chocolate biscuit lull. You need something, a bit of a sugar boost, or you need to put your head out of the door or something. It's really recognize when you're having those lulls and work with your energy rather than just keep forcing yourself to do something that it's just not right for you.
Yeah, I think you're right, and because we're always attracted to firefighting, aren't we? We always want to solve problems and firefight in an office. And managers and leaders, you see them running around firefighting, and you just like you can't do that forever. And I often in my audiences, if I've got a big audience, a couple of hundred or more, I do lots of put your hand up for this because it creates engagement. And one of the questions I always ask is, have you ever been really busy at work and got nothing done? And everyone's hand goes up.
Yeah.
And it's because we're all firefighting. We're all distracting ourselves from what we need to do. And every job requires a bit of firefighting, even if you're not a firefighter. But it also requires some rest, some thinking time, and some time out. You're absolutely right. Gosh,
Yeah.
we could talk all day about this. It's great.
I've just looked at the time as well. I say this to everybody. When I asked you what you wanted to do when you were little, I wanted to be Michael Parkinson. So
Ooh.
doing stuff like this is like my dream come true. So I could just sit here all day. But on that note, Lee, I will let you go because I know you've got stuff to do. Where can people find you?
Yeah, my website is leejackson.org, leejackson.org. You'll find me on socials, and I've got quite a big following on Instagram, and I post funny comedy videos and stuff. So it's not all serious stuff. So yeah, you'll find me, Lee Jackson speaker. Just Google that, and you'll find me pretty much. I think we need to do this again, Barbara, because we
Yeah, we
could
could
do a
do
part
loads.
7 of this, couldn't we?
We could
Easily.
do a part 7. We could. We'll just lift your book again and see where it takes us.
That's
I'll
right.
put the link to your book in the show notes as well as links to everywhere else. So go find Lee, go follow him, get in touch. But Lee, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it.
Pleasure, Barbara, and thanks for being so open and generous with your time. Thank you.